Once a mountain of muscle charging through blockbusters like Commando and Predator, now Arnold moves with measured force. Less brute, more elder statesman. His frame has softened, hair silvered, but he reshaped his legacy, from action titan to politician to climate advocate. Like a sculpted statue weathered by time, Stallone's frame shows the wear. Less bulk, more burden, but his presence still punches through. The man behind Rocky and Rambo now directs from the shadows, choosing legacy over limelight, resilience over relentless physicality. Enter the Dragon didn't just thrill, it sparked global martial arts obsession. Though Bruce Lee left us in '73, his influence outpaces time. His compact, honed physique redefined strength. Today, MMA, cinema, and philosophy still echo with the thunder of his fleeting flame. He once leapt rooftops and crashed through glass with a grin, every bruise a signature. Now 70, Jackie walks slower, shoulders lower, but mentors new talent behind the scenes. With CGI rising, he champions real stunts, preserving the craft he bled for, one fall at a time. Once the grim-eyed gunslinger who made silence lethal, Clint Eastwood now directs with the same intensity he once fired from a Colt. At 94, his posture is bowed, but his vision remains sharp, choosing scripts over stunts, crafting stories with the same grit that once echoed through dusty western streets. Like an old leather satchel battered by time yet built to last, Harrison Ford wears every adventure in his frame. From the bullwhip cracks of Indiana Jones to quieter cameos, the 82-year-old leans into legacy, trading the chase for mentorship as the film world shifts from pulp grit to polished pixels. He once sprinted across rooftops with veins full of fire. Now at 62, Tom Cruise still leaps from jets, defying age like it's just another stunt. His jawline's softened, hair silvering, but he's doubled down on daring, producing blockbusters that reject green screens in favor of bone-rattling realism. Neo-bent time, John Wick broke bodies. Keanu Reeves, now 60, moves slower between takes but still trains like a warrior monk. His hair's longer, movements more methodical, yet his cult appeal endures. Off-screen, he funds indie films and writes comics, steering his career with stoic intent. Once the smirking renegade of Die Hard, Bruce commanded chaos with a smirk and a bloody tank top. Now, after retiring due to illness, his voice is quiet, but his legacy roars. The sharp jaw has softened, posture slowed, but he redefined the vulnerable action hero for decades. Like a weathered oak rooted in Western soil, John Wayne stood tall as America's rugged icon. Though he passed in 1979, his broad-shouldered swagger and slow, deliberate drawl echo in film and politics alike, an image carved into the mythos of masculinity and frontier grit. The King of Cool made silence speak louder than bullets. From Bullet to The Great Escape, his piercing stare did more damage than a car chase. Gone too soon in 1980, McQueen's lean frame and rebel aura still shape action stars chasing that elusive, effortless danger. With war paint streaked and fury in his eyes, Braveheart's roar shook theaters. At 68, Gibson's gait is stiffer, eyes wearier, but his grip on storytelling holds. Once Hollywood's hot-blooded rebel, he now channels chaos behind the camera, rage refined into raw direction. Before we continue these amazing celebrity transformations, here's a quick challenge for you. Can you subscribe to Then vs. Now Legends in the next 5 seconds? Smash that subscribe button and join us on this journey through time with your favorite stars. Like weathered granite shaped by storms, Charles Bronson's presence was all grit and silence. From Death Wish to Western showdowns, he carved a legacy with a glare. When he passed in 2003, he'd long left the spotlight, but his stoic archetype still haunts every lone wolf vigilante that followed. Once the rebellious swagger behind Snake Plissken and Jack Burton, Kurt Russell now favors mountain retreats over Manhattan shootouts. At 73, his mane's turned silver, his screen time scarcer, but his mythic charm persists, passed down through father-son sets and the cult films that never faded. He once electrified arenas, then smashed through Hollywood like a wrecking ball. Now 52, Dwayne Johnson's frame remains colossal, but behind the brawn lies a producer and philanthropist reshaping his brand. Less suplex, more strategy, he's building dynasties, not just dodging explosions on green screen sets. He gave Bond his bite and generations their first taste of suave brutality. When Sean Connery passed in 2020, aged 90, it wasn't just the end of an era, it was the closing of a vault. Retired for years, his voice deepened and steps slowed, but his cinematic shadow never shrank. Once a blade of lightning and hero and fist of legend, Jet Li now moves like a monk in winter, calm, deliberate, and inward bound. His physique, once razor-sharp, has softened due to health struggles, but his legacy cuts deep, shaping generations of cinematic warriors. Once an underdog in Hong Kong cinema, now a global force, Donnie Yen evolved from scrappy fighter to refined tactician. His strikes in Ip Man taught grace through grit. At 61, he fights fewer battles on screen, mentoring others while pushing for authentic Asian stories. Bloodsport made him the poster boy for spin kick finesse. Van Damme's flexed frame drew cheers. Now at 64, he walks with looser limbs and introspective calm. No longer chasing sequels, he embraces satire and mentoring. Less warrior monk, more knowing mirror of the past. He once whispered threats and snapped wrists in sleek black suits, an Aikido ghost in the frame. At 72, Seagal's movement has slowed, and his silhouette broadened, but he remains a cult figure abroad. Trading film sets for diplomacy, he's rewritten his role on his terms. From Blade's sword-swinging swagger to low-profile indie roles, Wesley Snipes has traded leather vests for layered characters. At 62, his build's leaner, his glare more introspective, but his impact endures in every martial arts hybrid hero. He now crafts stories that reflect the fight beyond the fists. Like a drifting smoke trail from hard-boiled shootout, Chow Yun-Fat's aura lingers long after the chaos. Once twin-wielding through John Woo ballets, now 69, he hikes mountains and lives humbly. His silhouette no longer dives through windows, but his influence echoes in every slow-motion showdown. Elbows shattered props, knees rewrote choreography. Tony Jaa exploded onto screens with Ong Bak. Now 48, his frame's refined and movements less feral, but his spirit fuels stunt teams across Asia. No longer chasing fame, he mentors behind the scenes, honoring the ancient roots of his modern craft. The raid didn't just raise the bar, it threw a wall. Iko Uwais, now 41, hasn't aged out of combat but evolved within it. His strikes remain crisp, but his gaze carries more gravity, appearing in global productions while training fighters to blur the line between cinema and survival. Once a whirlwind of agility defying his frame, Sammo Hung redefined action physics in Eastern Condors and beyond. Now 72, with slower steps and silver hair, he directs from behind the lens. While wirework and CGI rise, he safeguards old-school stunt craft with fierce pride. A thunderclap in human form, Sonny Chiba roared through 1970s grindhouse with raw fury and bruising power. Though he passed in 2021, his legacy endures, gritty, unpolished, magnetic. Where others danced through fights, Chiba tore through them, authenticity etched in every blow. Ellen Ripley didn't just survive Aliens, she redefined who could lead an action film. Now 75, Weaver stands tall, voice measured, presence unshaken. With softer features and stately poise, she champions complex sci-fi roles, proving evolution can still be revolutionary. From chin-ups in Terminator 2 to trench coats and shotguns, Hamilton was muscle and menace. At 68, her lines are deeper, arms leaner, but the defiance remains. Rejecting easy fame, she resurfaced only when Sarah Connor had more to say, warrior turned wise sentinel. Like a silk ribbon wrapped around steel, Michelle Yeoh blends elegance with ferocity. From Crouching Tiger to Oscar-winning Gravity, now at 62, her kicks are rarer but her presence cuts deeper. She's become a global matriarch, choosing roles that champion legacy over spectacle and grace over noise. Once Lara Croft's fearless silhouette, now a humanitarian force, Angelina Jolie's roles have shifted from pistols to policy. At 49, her frame is leaner, her voice sharper, directing from behind the lens and amplifying global stories. She swapped tombs for truth, proving impact isn't always explosive. She faced down zombie hordes in Resident Evil, blending fashion with fury. Now 49, Mila Jovovich still strides with power, but often behind the camera or beside her daughters. Her body bears fewer battle marks, yet her influence persists, mentoring new heroines in the genre she helped redefine. Furiosa didn't need words. Charlize Theron roared through Mad Max with bruised grace. At 49, she's still fierce but chooses scripts over stunts, producing with surgical focus. Her blonde armor now hides behind storyboards, where she crafts power quietly, no less deadly than any war rig she once drove. Like a katana aged in silence, Uma Thurman holds a sharpened calm beneath her grace. Kill Bill carved her into action legend, fluid, vengeful, unbreakable. Now 54, with gentler edges and deliberate pace, she chooses roles with precision, wielding presence over spectacle. Once the raw fury of girl fight, now the backbone of billion-dollar franchises, Rodriguez at 46 still smolders on screen, but her muscles are leaner, her gaze more introspective. As Hollywood trends shift, she amplifies tough Latina voices, pushing stories past stereotypes. In Underworld, she blurred vampire myth and martial prowess, latex-clad, pistol-drawn, utterly composed. At 51, the jawline's softer, the action paused, but her wit remains razor-sharp. Behind the camera now, she crafts roles with more bite than bloodshed, grace evolved. She once stormed through Marvel's war zones in leather and steel, her hair aflame against chaos. Now 40, Johansson pivots, less fist, more voice. With fewer bruises but deeper scripts, she builds roles behind the scenes, shaping a future where women write their own war. From alien warrior to intergalactic tactician, Zoe Saldana built a universe of roles with fierce grace. Now 46, she favors balance. Less stunt rig, more story arc. Her body still trained, her eyes carry more weight. Between Marvel and Avatar, she quietly shapes the sci-fi genre's emotional core. Like a jazz riff that reshaped the rhythm, Pam Grier's presence redefined power. From Foxy Brown to cult classics, she broke ground with swagger and fists. Now 75, her curls have silvered, her stance softened, but she mentors fiercely, standing as a cornerstone for generations of women who punch back. He once towered as Ivan Drago, sculpted like mythic stone. Now 67, Dolph Lundgren carries the scars of battle, softer around the edges, yet sharper behind the scenes. A survivor of cancer and the 80s action boom, he now directs with stoic purpose, still fighting, just on different front lines. Apollo Creed danced with danger, and Carl Weathers made it poetry. When he passed in 2024, Hollywood lost a craftsman. His muscles had long yielded to gravitas, but his legacy punched forward, through The Mandalorian, directing, and every underdog who believed they could go the distance. Point Break and Roadhouse made Swayze the poetic brawler, graceful, lethal, unforgettable. Though he passed in 2009, his legacy glows with ghostly intensity. That dancer's frame delivered punches with rhythm. Hollywood still misses his rare blend of soul and steel. Once the immortal swordsman in Highlander, Lambert cut a striking figure, intense eyes, wild hair, sharp blade. Now 67, his posture is gentler, the thunder in his voice more gravel than fire. While blockbusters faded, he champions indie films, guarding cult mythologies. Like Stormlight trapped in flesh, Hauer brought beauty to brutality. In Blade Runner, his haunted monologue became cinema scripture. Though he passed in 2019, his sinewy presence and Nordic snarl ripple through sci-fi and dystopia, an actor who made menace feel human. He once sprinted through techno nightmares and jungle ambushes in the Terminator and Aliens. Now 68, Bean's body bears the weight of time, roles fewer, voice gravel deep. But he remains a cult icon, eschewing fame, embracing smaller parts with quiet battlefield honor. He once shouted he was too old for this. Now at 78, Danny Glover has embraced that truth with dignity. The action slowed, the frame more fragile, but his voice commands more weight than ever. A tireless activist and producer, he's chosen purpose over pyrotechnics, proving age is its own weapon. Like a scorched script rewritten in blood and ink, Mickey Rourke's face tells stories fame can't erase. Once a matinee idol turned Sin City warrior, now 72, his gait is heavier, skin weathered, but he still haunts screens with unpredictable fire, choosing chaos over polish, truth over stardom. His roundhouse kicks became legend, his stoicism meme-worthy. At 84, Chuck Norris no longer breaks boards, but he builds legacies. His once coiled frame has eased, beard whiter than snow, yet he trains quietly, funds martial arts programs, and remains a symbol of strength passed down, not worn out. As Zorro, he sliced the screen with fire and finesse. Now 64, Antonio Banderas moves with careful grace, voice richer, eyes deeper. His shoulders may slouch, but his storytelling sharpens, directing, mentoring, embracing theater, as if trading swords for sonnets without losing an ounce of charm. Like a cathedral weathered by war, Jean Reno still carries quiet might. In Leon, the professional, his stillness was more lethal than rage. At 76, his frame has thickened, steps slower, but his presence remains stoic. He now gravitates toward mentor roles, gravity over gunfire. From American Ninja's silent strikes to quiet convention halls, Dudikoff's journey shifted. Once lean and coiled like a spring, now 70, his stance is gentler, his spotlight dimmer, but by choice. He walked from the action spotlight to raise a family and teach self-discipline. From getaway cars to bare-knuckle brawls, Statham redefined the modern tough guy. At 57, with hair gone and muscles leaner, he still radiates tension. But behind the scowl is a producer shaping projects with grit and smarts, choosing quality over quantity as years press on. With gravel voice and tank-top loyalty, Diesel's fast and furious persona became mythic. At 57, he's bulkier, slower, but his franchise grip remains iron. More producer than street racer now, he builds cinematic universes where family isn't just theme, it's legacy strategy. Once the rogue operative in Bourne, Matt Damon now favors precision over chaos. At 54, his frame's less sculpted, but his performances cut deeper. He stepped behind the camera, producing quiet power plays while letting younger fists fly, proving that impact doesn't always require amnesia or chase scenes. Like a weathered oak felled by storms yet still casting shade, Liam Neeson remains commanding. At 72, his strikes are slower, voice gravel thick, but he's leaned into gravitas. He no longer runs after villains. He outweights them, delivering justice with weary eyes and the weight of lived battles. He once leveled rooms with a single glare. Now at 70, Denzel Washington chooses words as weapons. His stride's more deliberate, but his fire hasn't dimmed. While younger stars storm the screen, he directs from a place of earned silence, mentoring through stories that don't need explosions to echo. He built Iron Man with scrap and snark, then helped reshape the blockbuster era. Now 59, Robert Downey Jr. trades suits of armor for nuanced roles and passion projects. His once boyish charm carries deeper shadows, but his influence hums beneath every cinematic universe he helped ignite. He once swung Mjolnir like it weighed nothing, a golden god in Thor. Now 41, still carved but wiser-eyed, Hemsworth balances stunts with science, advocating brain health after action roles took their toll. Less thunder now, more reflection, choosing wellness over non-stop warfare. Like a blade folded countless times, Jackman blends sharp ferocity with elegance. As Wolverine, he snarled through 2 decades. At 56, the sinew's looser, voice more textured, but he commands both stage and screen, carving a path from mutant icon to Broadway polymath. In 300, he was sculpted fury, roaring through battle with immortal abs. At 55, the edges have softened, lines deepen, but Butler endures, trading six-packs for survival grit. Now leaning into grizzled anti-heroes and producers' chairs, he fights smarter, not younger. His Bond bled, limped and aged, a spy who showed scars. Craig redefined 007 with grit and vulnerability. Now 56, the tux is retired, the body leaner, stride more grounded. Behind the camera, he chooses complex roles and creative control over shaken martinis and car chases. From the Italian Job to Jim Hone brawlers, Mark Wahlberg built his brand on brute force and Boston grit. Now 53, his abs still flex, but his focus leans toward faith-based films and producing. The swagger's tempered, the punches choreographed with care, choosing business acumen over brute velocity. Like a shield retired but not forgotten, Chris Evans now carries his legacy with quiet steadiness. At 43, the Captain America build remains, but his gaze is softer, favoring indie dramas and directing. The star-spangled silhouette still echoes, but his purpose now lies behind the lens, not above a battlefield. He danced through danger as Star-Lord and tamed raptors in jungle chaos. Now 45, Chris Pratt still headlines blockbusters, but leans into fatherhood and faith. The six-pack's less spotlighted, the grin more grounded, balancing spectacle with sincerity in an industry still chasing his everyman charisma. Deadpool broke the fourth wall, but Ryan Reynolds redefined the anti-hero. At 48, his smirk endures, but he's just as likely to craft a telecom campaign as land a punchline. His build's leaner, humor sharper, merging action, comedy, and marketing into a genre all his own. Trident raised, tattoos gleaming, Aquaman turned Momoa into myth. At 45, the frame's still titanic, but now he crafts passion projects and rides environmental tides. Less conqueror, more conscious creator, he shapes Polynesian pride and personal causes into cinematic waves. Once Hollywood's go-to ex-con with a machete and a stare, now 80, Trejo moves with age-earned weight. The tattoos sag, the stride slows, but he's more active than ever, feeding communities, writing books, mentoring youth. The villain on screen became a hero off it. Like a coiled storm in a tailored suit, Elba brought gravitas to brute force. From Luther to Hobbes and Shaw, he fought with both brains and brawn. At 52, the fire's refined, the jawline softer, but he now DJs, directs, and scripts change, proving cool doesn't crack with age. He gave Bane menace, Mad Max silence, and every role a feral energy. Now 47, Hardy still trains like a cage fighter, but picks battles with care. The bulk shifts with roles, but intensity stays. Off-screen, he writes, produces, and supports veterans, quiet power rechanneled. He growled through The Punisher with bruised knuckles and broken hearts. Now 48, John Bernthal still trains like war's coming, but his focus has widened, hosting gritty podcasts, mentoring vets, and choosing roles that dig into pain over gunfire. The fight's still in him, but now it comes with purpose. Once a wiry force in The Purge and Warrior, Frank Grillo at 59 has let the abs fade slightly, but not the edge. He's shifted from street-level enforcer to behind-the-scenes architect, producing action films with bite, spotlighting real fighters, and aging not out of relevance but into resilience. Like a battle-worn helmet still polished beneath the dents, Karl Urban carries the weight of roles from Dredd to The Boys with rugged force. At 52, his face is more lined, voice gruffer, but that intensity never faded. He's become the genre's anchor, reliable, brutal, and never phoning it in. He may never have headlined a franchise, but Scott Adkins earned cult devotion with kicks that seemed digitally enhanced. Now 48, he's less in front of green screens, more behind training rigs, designing action for others, preserving the lost art of real contact cinema in a world obsessed with CGI. From Spawn to underground martial arts cult hits, White's fists once flew with explosive flair. Now 57, his form remains chiseled, but he's shifted focus, directing, mentoring, and opening dojos. In an age of CGI shortcuts, he stands firm as a real fighter, guarding real craft. A cinematic tempest in human form, Mifune stormed across Kurosawa's frames with sword and scowl. Though he passed in 1997, his towering presence still defines samurai archetypes. His legacy endures, not just in film, but in every glare, stance, and code of modern warriors. From true blood to near superhero stardom, Manganiello fused beastly size with nerdcore charm. At 48, the muscle's still visible, but now he champions D&D, directs indie genre films, and runs charity campaigns, an action figure who decided to build his own universe. Snarling through Cliffhanger and Guardians, Rooker's grit has always felt lived in. At 69, with a slower stride and roughened edge, he leans into complex misfits over muscle. While others chased polish, he gave us raw humanity, still chewing scenes like they owe him money. He brought Punisher brutality and Roman steel to life with gravitas. When Ray Stevenson passed in 2023, the genre lost a silent giant. His presence was broad, voice thunderous, but was his quiet dignity in roles like Ahsoka that revealed a depth fans didn't forget and storytellers still revere. Like forged armor hung with care, Henry Cavill's Superman physique remains, but now at 41, he chooses code over capes. Swapping flight for finesse, he dives into lore-rich roles and passion projects. The biceps still stun, but it's his nerdy precision that's reshaping what modern action heroes can be. From jumble firefights in Predator to real-life politics, Jesse Ventura traded gunplay for governance. At 73, the muscles have softened, the voice mellowed, but he still challenges systems, podcast mic in hand. He didn't fade from view. He rewrote the role, from mercenary to media maverick. He slithered into fame as Loki, an action icon dressed in trickery. Now 43, Tom Hiddleston favors theater over chaos, his frame leaner, expression richer. He crafts emotion like others craft explosions, evolving from mischievous god to serious storyteller, redefining power through restraint, not raw force. Then versus Now Legends is feeling a bit lonely. 99% of you haven't subscribed yet. Show us some love and hit that subscribe button so we can keep bringing you the jaw-dropping journeys of your favorite stars. And if you're as fascinated by then and now glow-ups as we are, check out our previous videos. Trust us, they're totally worth your time and ours too.